Welcome to the 2021 Veterans Pen Celebration, celebrating 75 years of the Veterans Voices Writing Project. Celebrating writing for veterans, by veterans. Special thanks to our 2021 Veterans Pen sponsors, the Bill Little Memorial, Honorable and Mrs. Thomas Clark, Beaumont Hotel, Cafe, Airport, and RV Park. Veterans Voices Writing Project Board of Directors: Cheryl Little, President; Theodore Iliff, Vice President; Pris Chansky, Secretary-Treasurer; Margaret Clark, Editor-in-Chief; Stephen Craig, Louise Eisenbrandt, Christopher Iliff, Lori Kessinger, Deanne Mitchell, and Martha Walker. Subscribe to Veterans Voices at veteransvoices.org/subscribe.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Little, and I am the president of the Board of Directors for Veterans Voices Writing Project. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to our annual Veterans Pen Celebration. As we did in 2020, in keeping with the COVID-19 restrictions, our program again is coming virtual. This Veterans Pen Celebration is coming to you from the VFW Museum, just down the hall from our Veterans Voices Writing Project office in the VFW building. And as last year, we welcome all of those who are joining us from around the United States. Just a few reminders before we get into the program. Please mute your mics and turn off the camera for the duration of the program. Make sure your view is in speaker view. And we will not have a Q&A, but you may use the chat feature to comment or ask questions, or any other questions posted before or after the event can be directed to support@veterans.org. This recording also will be available after the event on our website, so you can go ahead and share that link with someone that you think might be interested. This project encourages veterans to express their thoughts and feelings in writing and to send their stories, essays, poems, and artwork to the VVWP headquarters for potential publication in the Veterans Voices magazine. 75 years ago, Elizabeth Fontaine had a vision to develop a therapeutic writing program for veterans who were hospitalized in VA hospitals at the end of World War II. Through her efforts of beginning the writing program at Hines VAMC in Chicago, she gained the trust, acceptance, and support of the Veterans Administration. Today, the project is accepted throughout the VAMC network, and the VA also assists with magazine distribution. Here is Lisa Kearns, Interim Director of the Kansas City VA Medical Center, to give a few words of greeting.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Kearns, the Interim Director of the Kansas City VA Medical Center. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today as we celebrate military veterans' devotion to creative writing. Congratulations, Veterans Voices Writing Project, VVWP. 75 years of dedicated service to veterans. The VVWP began in 1946, formerly known as the Hospitalized Veterans Writing Project. Volunteers went into VA hospitals to encourage military members to write stories. Then, in 1952, right here in Kansas City, The first issue of Veterans Voices was published. The publication included 18 pages of hand-stapled mimeographed writing that included poetry pieces. In 1972, the organization consolidated their operations from 3 different cities and moved to Kansas City. Today, operations remain in Kansas City, and in the fall of 2015, the name changed to Veterans Voices Writing Project. The all-volunteer staff produces the Veterans Voices magazine every spring, summer, and fall. These publications are then shipped to every VA Medical Center, Vet Center, and VA Community Living Center across the country. VVWP gives all veterans the opportunity to share their voices, experiences, memories, and emotions through creative writing, poems, essays, and artwork. I'd like to thank the VVWP's Board of Directors, professional administrator, and the all-volunteer staff for this very special publication, giving veterans a safe and easy way to express their feelings and thoughts. Your outstanding commitment and devotion to America's heroes is commendable. Thank you again for inviting me to provide some opening remarks for today's event, and thank you for 75 years of dedication and support to our nation's heroes.
Thank you, Lisa. Today, VVWP serves all veterans with our therapeutic writing program to heal their unseen emotional and moral wounds. Veterans write about personal experiences and innermost thoughts to help manage the effects of PTSD and to reduce the risk of suicide. They also write for creative expression. It offers the opportunity for community and writing groups and to have their work published. The program continues its important work for those who served in the Korean, Vietnam, and Gulf Wars, and now with the returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan and other recent conflicts, the project is as important as ever. The project's therapeutic writing program is designed to acknowledge military veterans' experiences and build self-esteem through creative expression and possible publication. Mental well-being is an important component in the health of returning military veterans and helps veterans heal from the physical and psychological trauma associated with military service, whether from actual combat, war training, or emotional trauma. The project helps military personnel transitioning into civilian life to heal from emotional scars by encouraging them to write down their thoughts, concerns, and reflections. VVWP offers veterans an opportunity to see their writing appear in Veterans Voices. After more than 70 years, what is still unique about the VVWP program is that these veteran stories and experiences are published to a national audience. There are countless programs that use writing as therapy, and some have been published in book form or for a local audience. However, VVWP's program has published more than 15,000 veterans' writings since 1952 and is mailed throughout the country to individuals, VA centers, libraries, veterans and auxiliary organizations, and others who support the program. And it is the only magazine with its content solely written by veterans. We are a 501c3 organization, and for these 75 years, we have been sustained in many ways. Grants from foundations, sponsors of the magazine, as well as various posts from the VFW and Auxiliary, the American Legion and Auxiliary, and the DAV and Auxiliary. However, it is the individual donor, whether you are an author who returns their check with a donation or someone who supports the magazine as a way to support veterans, that goes a long way in sustaining the Veterans Voices magazine. We also raise funds through Amazon Smile. The COVID restrictions continue to put online shopping on a whole new level. So as you shop online, you can donate to VVWP through your purchases on Amazon. Sign up for the Amazon Smile through the VVWP website. Since 2020, the COVID-19 has changed many aspects of this country and around the world. As we continue to work through this pandemic, many things may never be the same again. While it has changed the amount of donations that have come to VVWP, it has not changed the mission or vision of this organization. Our mission is to enable military veterans to experience solace and satisfaction through our writing program. And our vision is a world where people appreciate that writing can both heal and entertain. For 75 years, VVWP has accomplished both our mission and vision, and with your help, we endeavor to continue to provide veterans an avenue of healing and creativity. Another part of Elizabeth Fontaine's vision encompasses an all-volunteer group of people to drive this organization. That vision continues today. VVWP is managed by a volunteer board of directors, and our office is staffed by a part-time person. These board members are committed to the mission and vision of this organization. Volunteers have been a vital part of VVWP for these 75 years, and we are grateful for all those volunteers who work with the veterans to bring their stories to light. Margaret Clark, who became the editor of Veterans Voices in 1974 and now serves as the editor-in-chief, and Pris Chansky, former administrative director and current VVWP board member, will now come and provide you with some of the highlights of the past 75 years.
Thank you, Cheryl. As Cheryl has said, Chris and I have been asked to give highlights from our years with VVWP. We can't share 75 years, but we knew the founders well, and we've known each other since our college days at the University of Kansas. We met through Theta Sigma Phi, the precursor to the Association for Women in Communications, whose Kansas City chapter created Veterans Voices magazine. Chris will begin the trip down memory lane, and I'll follow.
A young woman journalist in Chicago believes strongly in the power of writing and in the need for people to volunteer their time and talent for the greater good of all. She was encouraged by a high school classmate to help a World War I veteran write his memories of the war. So Elizabeth Fontaine began a mission to help returning World War II veterans to write, and enlisted her fellow journalists in the Chicago chapter of Theta Sigma Phi to become writing aides at Hines VA Medical Center. The VA soon became aware of the improvements in the therapy that many veterans experienced and endorsed the program. This was the beginning of the Hospitalized Veterans Writing Project in 1946. Theta Sigs had meetings and conventions, and Elizabeth met Margaret Sally Keach from Kansas City. In their conversation, she began telling Sally about her project at the VA. Also an innovator and community-minded individual, Sally said, if these guys are going to write, their work should be published. When she returned home to her local Theta Sig chapter, she related the program and enlisted members to help her create a magazine to publish veterans' work. Thus, Veterans Voices was born. The first few issues, which were typed, mimeographed, and assembled with staples by the local chapter, and one member even scaled the fence at the local post office in order to deliver the magazines to the by the mailing deadline. These were dedicated volunteers, included Gladys Feld-Helsberg, Lucille Doors, Ruth Davidson, Mary Old, Charlotte McKenzie, and many others. The first issue was published in October of 1952. In 1951, Hospitalized Veterans Writing Project became an official nonprofit organization. Also that year, the National Theta Sigma Phi Convention was in Kansas City, and HVWP became the first national service project providing writing aids in VA hospitals across the United States. The first manuscripts were selected by the HVWP board in Chicago. Later, when Elizabeth moved to New York, she assembled many notable individuals to form a New York committee who helped to raise funds to support the project and its publication. Many writers and leaders of the time were engaged to write editorials and endorsements, to judge the project's veterans' manuscripts, and to provide and solicit prizes for the project's participants. Among them were U.S. presidents, some politicians, prominent book authors, and VA officials. Many contests were held for writers, and awards were given for some published work. Books, typewriters, pens, and other supplies were solicited for prizes. In 1972, the HVWP project was moved to Kansas City, where Veterans Voices was published, and new volunteers were able to carry on the work of the organization. Mrs. Keach became the president of the reorganized group under the banner, "Writing is Good Medicine." An office was established in Mission, Kansas, in a building owned by Mrs. Keach's lawyer husband. Veterans Voices had many prestigious mailing addresses over the years. The tallest building in Chicago, the Empire State Building in New York City, and then the new Kansas City VA hospital upon the move to Kansas City. Because of the changes within the VA system, fewer patients being hospitalized and more being served as outpatients, HVWP decided to change its name to Veterans Voices Writing Project in 2015. By this time, the organization had moved its offices to the Veterans of Foreign Wars building in Kansas City, Missouri, where we continue to rent offices just down the hall.
As you know, VVWP encourages veterans and active service members to express their thoughts and feelings in writing and to submit that writing for possible publication in Veterans Voices. We hope that writing eases the angst for some regarding military service and helps them better manage mental health issues. We know that seeing their writing in print lifts their spirits and enhances self-esteem. When I succeeded Sally Keach, the magazine's founder, as editor in the mid-70s, we were publishing the writing of World War I veterans, as well as World War II veterans. William Woodruff, a World War I vet, wrote about the Battle of the Argonne Forest in the fall of 1976. In his story, he mentions dogfights, English sub-chasers, macadam and shell roads, dirigibles, and how years later, the sound of taps would trigger within him horrific memories of trenches filled with dead Americans. As the World War I veterans faded from the scene, more and more World War II veterans were published in the magazine. Van Garner was among the most prolific. He wrote both prose and poetry about his military experiences and wrote a number of guest editorials for the magazine, encouraging other veterans to write. Away from that era, Helen Anderson Glass is still writing for the magazine. She is 98 years old and has a poem in the most recent issue of Veterans Voices. We also had Korean War veterans write about their experiences, but the Vietnam veterans have proven the most prolific. The Vietnam vets seem to have suffered the most from PTSD and moral injury. Either that or they write about it more. Frequent contributors from that era include Ron Mossbaugh, Jim Barker, Kenny Trujillo, Rich Weingard, and Lou Eisenbrandt. In addition to writing, Rich and Lou also fundraise for Veterans Voices. Rich advocates for suicide prevention, and Lou serves on the VVWP Board of Directors and is the author of 2 books about her experiences as a Vietnam nurse. More recently, our magazine has published writing from Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Newberry Scott, Stephen Russell Jr., and Kimberly Green are a few of these writers. I mentioned Lou Eisenbrandt's books. Over the years, other Veterans Voices have authored books as well, but Ron Kovic is the author with the most fame attached to his book. He had a story published in the 1971 issue of Veterans Voices. Then in 1976, McGraw-Hill published his book, Born on the 4th of July. In 1989, it was adapted into an Academy Award-winning film by the same name. Ron co-wrote the screenplay, and a young Tom Cruise starred in the movie. The book is still in print 45 years later. He never again submitted writing to Veterans Voices, but our organization likes to think we helped him understand the power of the written word and the positive impact it can have on mental health. So VVWP, a project that was established to help military veterans returning from World War II, remains relevant 75 years later. The World War II veterans that it was created to help are few in numbers today. Yet because of ongoing warfare, we still have veterans who need the solace and satisfaction writing brings. We'd like to be out of a job someday, but for now we are privileged to serve America's veterans.
Now it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this year's Veterans Pen Celebration. Dean Vakas is uniquely qualified to talk about the issues most important to our mission. First, he is a decorated veteran with a vast range of experience from combat to command. His illustrious 30-year career took him to war zones in Iraq and Kosovo. His impressive list of Army leadership posts includes 1st Armored Division, the Command and General Staff College in Leavenworth, and the Defense Logistics Agency. He holds advanced degrees from Syracuse, the Armed Forces National Defense University, and the Command and General Staff College in Leavenworth. His name is on the University of Kansas ROTC Wall of Fame. After the Army career, he held executive positions at USR Corporation, Park University, and Kansas State University. He and his wife Julie make their home in Olathe, Kansas, where he remains active in numerous civic activities. Please welcome the keynote speaker for our organization's 75th anniversary celebration, Dean Vakas.
Thanks, Chris, and I appreciate you making me sound important. I know better. Thanks so much to all of you here in the room for inviting me to speak at this year's annual Veterans Pin Celebration. And thanks to all here online watching the celebration. It's an honor to stand before you. Sincere thanks to all who have been involved in orchestrating what has become the Veterans Voices Writing Project for over 75 years. I almost feel a sense of guilt in your presence. Let me explain. You know, I lived a 30-year career in the Army. As Chris mentioned, I'm a veteran of Kosovo and Iraq operations. I spent a lot of time in the field with soldiers, and I had the honor to serve in the 1st, the 2nd, and the 4th Infantry Divisions, and the 1st and 2nd Armored Divisions. You know, I was able to retire with most of my health and almost half of my wits. And yes, I do consider myself to be somewhat of a half-wit these days. But for all that I saw and did, my experience pales in comparison to the traumatic events suffered by so many other soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. However, I have seen enough to appreciate the horrific physical and emotional aftermath faced by so many veterans. I'm a firm believer in the value of the Veterans Voices Writing Project. There is an ongoing flood of memories and emotions associated with being a veteran. You know, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. Many of the memories are hard to talk about. In some cases, you suffer guilt from what you did or you didn't do. In other cases, there's an overwhelming accumulation of stress for all the things that you experienced that you could not control. This includes the physical scarring tied to the wounds of your body, physical pain that never goes away, the loss of arms, legs, sight, hearing, both physical and mental wounds. You keep a lot inside of yourself, and it weighs you down. There are unbearable times when you feel alone, times when a return to some sense of normalcy really seems impossible. Pause for a moment and think about what I've just said. You know, it's a pretty dark picture, and it falls to each veteran to find a way out of this despair. And I'll say it, you must lead yourself. You must take charge and lead yourself back to well-being. But you must have help. And this is where the Veterans Voices Writing Project fits in. Writing about your feelings is a way to let them out, to find freedom from the burden. It is a private and personal means to confront yourself. Look in the mirror and decide what you see. Look into your own eyes. Look into your soul. Feel the body that you occupy. Then you choose the words and express your feelings on paper. Tell a story. It can be what you feel at the moment. It can be a historical recollection. It can be allegory. It can be art. It can be a poem. Regardless of the method, it offers a powerful emotional release. You are writing to yourself, essentially about yourself, and this is powerful therapy. Writing therapy is a form of expressive therapy that uses the act of writing and processing the written word as therapy. Writing therapy suggests that writing one's feelings gradually eases the feeling of emotional trauma. I do believe this to be true. It's time for me to introduce a couple of quotes. Well, Henry David Thoreau, an American naturalist, essayist, poet, and philosopher who was at his side in the early years of the Civil War, said, "Not until we are lost do we begin to understand ourselves." Now, I offer to you that we are in some ways lost as a result of the trauma we have experienced. Next, in turn, Aristotle, the famous classical period Greek philosopher who lived about 2,300 years ago, said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom." I suggest to you that writing therapy is a method to know yourself. It is the beginning of a newfound wisdom that allows you to return to an emotionally healthy life. For over 30 years, I have found time every evening to spend 30 minutes by myself to pause and reflect about the day. I have practiced the art of introspection to consider what happened to me and around me. And importantly, what did it mean to me and how did it impact me? I have found it to be very valuable as I pause and reset for the next day. Only recently, and when I say that, only in the past few years, have I also started a diary. This is my form of written therapy, sometimes called journalistic therapy, and it is more powerful than just thinking. I am now recording my key thoughts, and I can return to them for perspective as often as needed as days go by. It does help me to unload feelings and decide how to reorient myself and the events in my life moving forward. Turning back specifically to the Veterans Voices Writing Project, veterans who have the opportunity to read the writings of others can often identify with their stories. Shared experience helps to create a pathway of healing. The Veterans Voices Writing Project amplifies veterans' voices throughout our extended community of veterans, and it creates a sustained, powerful therapy that I cannot overstate its value. The words of one veteran reverberate with many. I can't emphasize enough the value of veterans sharing their written thoughts with others through both printed and online versions of the Writing Project's quarterly publication. In many cases, the power of your words causes a fellow veteran to embark on their own journey of introspection and writing. By helping yourself through therapeutic writing and sharing your work, you are also helping so many others. The value of veterans' written words also extends into our general society. And I believe this is a critical point that here too, I cannot emphasize it enough. Friends and families of veterans, as well as citizenry writ large, without a connection to the military, see the depth of humanity represented by the veteran community. Veterans have witnessed firsthand the pain and suffering associated with war. In their own ways, every veteran tells a story relatable to all Americans. Most Americans do not fully appreciate the inhumanity of war. By participating in the Veterans Voices Writing Project, throughout the various forms of expression, you help create a tableau of thought-provoking pieces of literature, and each and every one makes a lasting impression. I want to believe this raises our collective sensitivity throughout our great country to the impact of placing servicemen and women in harm's ways. Veterans Voices Writing Project is a prescription for caution before we engage in future actions and create more veterans. Veterans who write should feel a sense of pride. You are making a powerful contribution to the welfare of our society. I encourage everyone to make the widest possible distribution of Veterans Voices through the magazine and the website, veteransvoices.org. Finally, I offer my sincere congratulations to this year's award winners. Thank you all for your help. And in conclusion, many, many thanks for allowing me to participate in today's celebration. I'm humbled by the thoughtful and caring people that surround me. Most importantly, I am as always humbled by the presence of veterans. You have my utmost respect, my lifelong gratitude for your selfless service to our nation and for your sacrifices that I will forever honor. Well, the names of the award recipients will now be displayed on the screen. Thanks very much.
Veterans Voices 2021 award winners: Elizabeth Fontaine Memorial Award, Hartley Barnes, Jim Barker, Louise Eisenbrandt. Margaret Sally Keach Memorial Award, Daniel Pykopoulos. Sally Sue Hughes Memorial Award number 1, Donna C. Zephyrin, Karen Green, Jean Allen Groner. Sally Sue Hughes Memorial Award number 2, Melanie Yvette Jackson, Scott Sostrand, Nyla K. Bartley. Sally Sue Hughes Memorial Award number 3, Tanya R. Whitney, Lawrence W. Langman, William L. Sneed. Gladys Feld-Hellsberg Memorial Award, E. Glenn Price, Matthew D. Davidson, Tanya R. Whitney. Larry Chambers Spirit Award, Brant Parker III, Michael D. Monfro, Anthony J. Williams. WOSL Members Appreciation Award, Editor's Choice by Doris Cobb, Daniel Pykopoulos, Kimberly Green, Charles S. Parnell. Gladys M. Canty Memorial Award, George S. Kulas, Penny Lee Deer, Tom Lauterbach. Robert T. Rubin Award, James Crisson, Drain Wasden, Sean Pernice. Pallas Athene Best Story Award by National Women's Army Corps Veterans Association, Peter K. Murray, C. L. Nemeth, Christopher Bremiker. David A. Andrews Jr. Memorial Award, Peter Steichow Jr., Richard Wangard, David Kahn. VFW Auxiliary Department of Kansas, Sean Pernice, David Cook, Catherine Iwadu. BVL Serving My Country Award, Brant Parker III, Michael F. McBride. DAVA State Department of Kansas, Tim Kent Brown, Scott Kent Newberry, Richard Wangard. DAVA State Department of Florida, W. Joseph O'Connell, Neil C. Morrison Jr., Ronald Nash. T.H. Norton Award, Editor's Choice, John L. Swainston, C.J. Reeves, Jennifer Graff.
Thank you, Dean, for those incredible remarks, and thank you for your being with us today. Thank you all for attending VVWP's virtual Veterans Pin Celebration. Hopefully next year we're going to be able to meet in person. It has been exciting to again welcome people from all over the country, which is the plus side of doing this virtually, but we do like it when we get together in person. So as we continue to navigate through the COVID-19, please stay safe and enjoy the Fall 2021 Veterans Voices, which, as we speak, is on its way to you. So you should have it probably within the next week. We hope. Don't hold me to that. So actually, and when you read it, Dean has the editorial in this issue. So thank you again for coming. And if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat or go to support@veteransvoices.org. Thank you.
Support Veterans Voices Writing Project by donating to veteransvoices.org/donation-2 or call us at 816-701-6844. The Veterans Voices Writing Project can be contacted support at veteransvoices.org or by calling 816-701-6844. Thank you for joining us for the 75th anniversary celebration and the 2021 Veterans Pen celebration supporting Veterans Voices Writing Project.